Libra Sun and Rising. Welcome to your March 2025 Astro Update. It's Rena here. Whew. I've already done a couple of these. I think this is my fourth one actually. And the more that I do them, I'm thinking this is going to be such a crazy month in terms of all these competing energies, transits that are occurring. We have eclipses, we have retrogrades, we have a whole, a generational planet going into a whole new cycle. It's just like, whoa. And the astrological new year. So it's like really amazing. Well, the first thing I want to say, there's a lot of emphasis in Aries, on Aries, and Aries is your opposite sign. So the opposite house from the first house is the seventh house. And this means that this is going to be featured, and that's the house that you rule in astrology, Libra. So there you go. And as a matter of fact, starting on the 1st, we get off the ground running. On the 1st of the month, your ruler, Venus, goes retrograde at 10 degrees of Aries in the house of committed partnership. And this can be a time, Venus retrograde can be a time when something is being rethought about in terms of your relationship. Yes, of course, that could always be what is going on. You might reconsider, do I want to be in this relationship? Do I love this person? Those are valid things to think about when a relationship is on the rocks, let's say. But it could be something that is completely different because you might be single. You might not even be in a relationship. And Venus retrograde in your case might have to do with some, like an ex coming back into the picture. This could be like an ex-husband or wife, or an um, as Dr. Laura would say, shack up honey. Uh, anything that has to do with like you in a monogamous committed relationship with someone. That's what it would tend to be. And I just did a reading where I was talking about Venus in the 5th house, which is about love. And even though these are not like completely the same, the 7th house is more of that, serious relationship that you've already established that is in the past. Because Venus retrograde for any sign could be somebody from some old lover coming back into your life. But when it's in the 7th house, that's really emphasized this way. And so I was saying with the other sign, with the other transit in the 5th house, saying just because somebody comes back or you reunite with someone doesn't mean that it's what you should be doing. And it might be very exhilarating, especially if they're the one that takes the trouble to call and they act like they can't live without you. But, certainly keep your head when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. Because when I say reuniting, I just mean that you're, getting together with them after maybe a certain period of time when you haven't seen that person. Not that you're actually going to get to, you're going to, get with that person. But it's one of those things where you have to be very aware of what the stakes are. Has that person changed? Have you changed? Maybe you realize that you want to be single and you don't even want to be with somebody at this time. So all of these things can be playing out. And on the 3rd, Mercury goes into this area. So that could be, and the 7th house can be legal affairs too. So if there's any kind of money at stake in some kind of a lawsuit or, whatever you want to call a legal matter, Mercury here can be the wheeling and dealing and, contracts that need to be signed, um, negotiation. That's what I meant by wheeling and dealing. On the 14th, there's a lunar eclipse that's 23 degrees, almost 24 of Virgo. For you, this is the 12th house. Wow. A lunar eclipse in the 12th house can be really great in terms of like if you have any kind of bad habits that have been hard to break, this could be the way to just they let the universe do the heavy lifting. Actually, it could even be like a karmic relationship, karmic contract that you've reunited with this person and you realize, oof, as much as I am drawn to this person, I know they're not good for me, but how do I, get out of this thing? Because this other person's coming on hot and heavy, and now I can see through them, but I still feel like trapped by them. And the lunar eclipse can kind of dissolve that. Karma, it's the 12th house is the last house. So it can really feel like you're ending a certain cycle. And that makes you ready for the future cycles that will emerge. On the 15th, we have a Mercury retrograde. So here we had a lunar eclipse on the 14th, and on the 15th, we have a Mercury retrograde at 9 degrees of Aries. So in that seventh house, if there's any kind of legal matter, there could be like having to re-sign some kind of document, or there's a mistake with a document. There could be like something, maybe you've reunited with an old lover and you have a misunderstanding, and that creates some issues in and of itself. Um, Remember that Mercury is a very quick moving planet, so even with these retrogrades, it's things will, you know, resolve themselves fairly quickly. On the 20th, the sun goes into Aries. That's the astrological new year. Spring in the southern hemisphere, in the northern hemisphere, and fall in the southern. And so we're talking about the change of seasons, very powerful time. But we have these interplanet retrogrades going on. So there are astrologers that will say, yeah, because, Venus, that's not such a big, deal that it's retrograding and it's still going to be good. But I don't know. Like, I feel like when Mercury and Venus go retrograde by the middle of next month, that whatever this astrological new year represents will be more actionable at that time. But definitely, look at this as a time to reflect on what it is that you want to manifest in the next 12 months. Certainly, you can do at least that for the time being. On the 27th, Venus goes back into Pisces. So it started its retro movement in Aries, but now it goes back into Pisces. So for you, we're looking at the sixth house of work. So, well, you know what this could be? Because then 2 days later, Mercury goes back into that sixth house. Maybe this is some kind of salary negotiation. The seventh is more of the mediation, the people, the legal authorities, or in the case of like a corporate environment, the human resources, whoever does those kinds of things. And you're making your case, and now it's going back into your sixth house. I feel like when Venus goes, Venus can be your values. So you might even be saying to yourself, if I'm not being treated enough, like, hey, if I have to really just jump through hoops to get a raise, I don't know if I really want to work here. I don't think I'm being valued, and I don't value it as much as I might have before. So you might be kind of evaluating whether or not something's worth it. Um, and on the same day that Mercury retros back into Pisces, we have a solar eclipse, 9 degrees of Aries in your 7th house of committed partnership. So, and for some of you, this may be actually be in your 6th house, and that would emphasize the opportunities for your work life, and maybe having more work if that's been um, a bit slow lately. That might spike or spice things up a little bit. But in the 7th house, this could be a time of great emphasis on relationships. And it might be multiple relationships, because this can even be your client base. And that could be expanding. On the 30th, the next day, Neptune goes into your 7th house. Now, Neptune is a planet, I think it's misaligned by a lot of astrologers, because just because you're an astrologer doesn't mean you can't think in a worldly way. And I feel like, you would think that an astrologer would be like totally spiritual, but I think that conditioning of the world certainly can play into the kind of negative interpretations that tend to abound when we talk about Neptune. Because Neptune, on the positive side, can be transcendence, the spiritual ecstasy, the merging of you with the cosmos. And it can be deception, it can be delusion, it can be addiction, it can be madness. When Neptune is in your 7th house, and it will go back into the 6th, so keep that in mind, because it's going to go back into Pisces. But when it goes into your 7th house, this can be a time of idealizing union. So if you are one of those outliers, I would call them Libra individuals who are not necessarily, and I'm talking about, in this case, I would be talking more about the sun sign, and you're kind of like not as keen on a permanent relationship as many Libra people might be. I would say that this could be the time when you meet your soulmate. I think Neptune could be your soulmate. And also that you would be really softening your feelings and feeling that sense of idealizing this, especially if you've kind of waited, maybe you're in your 30s, to really take relationships seriously. Again, these are the outliers. Usually Libra people are the first ones to want a committed partnership. But this could really like have you being idealistic about it, being spiritual, like finding a person who's not just somebody you have romantic love for, but you actually have a spiritual connection with them. But here is the caveat. Be very careful, because Neptune can deceive. And you are going to have Neptune in this sector for many years, because it's a generational planet. So make sure that this is more of the soulmate and less of the con artist, the person who is hiding something. Neptune can be somebody who is deceiving you, like, for instance, a bigamist, or they don't have to be legally married, but they have a whole other life, and you don't find out right away, and you fall madly in love with that person, and or some other sort of reason that the person wants to get with you. Maybe it's a money thing. Maybe it's so they can get a green card, or they can, um, something that benefits them, but that's not really love. And you might on your end think it's true love. So you have to be kind of like vigilant, I would say, when Neptune is in the seventh house, because it's so easy to get into la la land with Neptune. Neptune can really bewitch you, make you feel like that something is other than what it truly is. Now, I will say that I think overall that this is a very um, that these are good omens about these transits in the seventh house. If you're somebody who is single and looking, and or maybe you're involved with someone and you are really wanting to make it official, you want marriage, or you want that feeling that you are officially a couple with somebody, and maybe they're dragging their feet. The fact that you have a solar eclipse here, I feel like that is kind of an activation. But ultimately, you're going to have to use discernment, especially with this transit when it involves, another person, so that you do not get deceived by somebody who lulls you into a false sense of security, and really they're not what they seem. But like I said, it's going to be quite jam-packed month full of transits. So I hope that you enjoyed this, Libra. If you'd like a private reading, I have some package deals that are discounted in price because you're buying more than one reading at the same time. And you can find out more information about those and all the readings I offer at the link below. Thanks for listening. Bye.